Well, today it is my privilege and honor to welcome a special guest. His name is Rodereck Blassingame. Some of you out there might know him already because he's got an incredible testimony, and we're going to get into that today. But we're going to go so far beyond what he normally shares with the public. At least that's my intention. I'm a little nervous about where it's going to go, but it's going to be a great show. So stay tuned in. Welcome to the Faith to Faith Gospelcast, where we talk about all things related to God, faith, missions, leadership, side hustles, and what Jesus is doing in the next generation. I'm your host, Tommy Ashiro, and I want to welcome you to the program. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button and come back for a new episode each week. With all that said, let's jump into today's episode. And so we're back with Rodereck Blassingame. Rodereck, how's it going, buddy?
What's up? How you doing, Tom?
When was the first time we actually met? Is it Pulse?
Yeah, it was definitely Pulse 100.
You know what? I actually think that you're your cohort 3, right?
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of me starting to feel anxious about Gen Z. Actually, my daughter did a great job making me feel always anxious about Gen Z. But in terms of like me being friends with you guys and getting to know you guys in a personal way, by the time you showcased at the Pulse 100, I was already at the fill of my relationships.
Yeah.
So I remember actually as we were leaving at the end of the first retreat weekend, you saying hi to me on the way out the door and me going like, hi, and just kept on going because I was just like so up my lid. But I also had seen you preach in the showcase and I was like, yo, that kid is fire. I watched you do it. So here you are. You're in my home. We're in my studio and you're here in my community.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for coming. And it's really cool to see you engage with the kids in our youth groups. And then tonight you're going to do my home church's youth group. Tomorrow you're going to do street church. And then you're going to do Calvary Chapel, my home church, all the services. And then Sunday night, we're going to do that special event, Faith and Sexuality.
Yes.
Because as you know, it's your life. You know, you've got this powerful testimony. So I want to start the podcast by kind of recapping that and however you want to take it, to share about yourself. And then I'm going to start doing the thing that I do and kind of poking and pulling apart.
All right, bet.
And you probably learned something about yourself from this little experiment we're going to do.
Honestly, probably.
Yeah. All right. So share.
Yeah, so I was born in Forest City, Arkansas, and I have 5 sisters. But growing up, I grew up with 2 to 3 sisters. I'm the only guy.
Wait a minute, what does that mean? I have 5 sisters, but growing up. Oh, because 2 came later?
Yeah, the other ones came later on.
I was like, were you just disowning 2 of them? Oh, yeah, but I got it.
Disowning them.
Got it.
Or they're disowning me. No, I'm joking. Yeah, and so the parenting dynamic that I had growing up in the household was very interesting because my mother struggles with bipolar disorder, and my dad at the time struggled with being an alcoholic. And what came with that was him being abusive towards me and my siblings. And the abuse went on for years. It was really, really hard because I felt like, and this is not to diminish the abuse that my sisters went through, but because I was the only guy, I felt like my dad was more harder on me because of that fact. And it was really hard because the father that is supposed to protect you and love you and teach you wrong from right and teach you how to be a leader in society, teach you how to be a man. He didn't do that. He did the complete opposite of that growing up. And it was really, really hard, especially because, since preschool, I experienced same-sex attraction. But because of everything that went on in the household, I never told my father or mother about how I felt towards guys growing up.
Wait. Since preschool? Bro, I can't even remember what I thought in preschool. I probably couldn't decide between which show I wanted to watch at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
How the heck do you even know you have a same-sex attraction in preschool?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I saw little Sarah and little Johnny liking one another, I like little Johnny too. And
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
and I just like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy because there's just like I didn't have the language for it at the time, and I didn't even know what I was experiencing at the time, but all I did know was that I felt a certain way towards guys, towards, obviously like preschool boys at
Okay.
the time, that I saw preschool girls and preschool guys normally have towards one another. And obviously at the time I didn't have the language for it. And it was very, very interesting because just like, dang, bro, that just goes to show that there's so many different reasons why people, or so many different like circumstances that people are in where they find out like, oh yeah, no, I'm actually like same sex attracted, like I actually like the same sex and things like that. And it's just like it's not a one size fits all type stuff. Like it's for some people it comes later in life, for some people it comes very early on in life and stuff, and you just never know, bro.
So now that you're an adult and you do have words, which I don't want to take you fully down this rabbit hole, but I
Yeah.
want to understand. Does it mean, because I don't even remember liking girls at preschool? So I mean, maybe you're developing quicker than I did at that age
Yeah.
or whatever. Uh, can you articulate now what that means, like to be
Mm.
attracted in preschool? Like, did it just mean that you wanted to spend time with, or like
Yeah.
as an adult? No, no, not your adult
Yeah. Yeah.
feelings, but your preschool feelings. Like,
Yeah.
how does that manifest? Like,
Yeah, so I would say looking back at it now with the mentality that I have and the understanding that I now have had with having to think about it because it's part of my testimony. I would say that, which is like, and I kind of like learned about this a little early on. Like because my mom and dad like were, I mean, at the time like they were married, and they would kiss in front of me and things like that. And all I knew is that I wanted to have that same type of interaction, but with the preschool boy when I
okay,
was in
okay, all
preschool.
right, that's a
Yeah.
fair description. It's far enough down the rabbit hole. All right, continue with your testimony then.
Yeah. So where do I want to go from there?
Well, you talked about your dad. You talked about the abuse in the home.
Yeah.
You talked about, feeling like your dad just wasn't there for you, and that's probably a big part of your story, I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah.
guess.
Yeah. I would say that as I grew up continuously being abused by him, I would find myself like, I don't know, it was this weird thing where because I didn't find love for my father, I would start trying to find that in other guys. Um which was very weird because like when I was in like I don't think that me like experiencing same-sex attraction came from me being abused by my father, but I do think that that contributed to the things that I did with guys and stuff, and the interactions that I had with them moving forward to try to find in them what I didn't find in my father. And so the abuse continued for years upon years. We would have to travel a lot. Sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad reasons, and the bad reasons being because my dad was an alcoholic, he would take the money that him and my mom would make every single month and spend a lot of it on alcohol. And he was a cigarette smoker at the time as well, and it would just leave us without any food, so we would have to walk to food pantries that would be miles and miles and miles away. And then because he spent all that money, we couldn't pay for our apartment, and so we got evicted. And we would have to move states where family was, or family and friends
What?
were.
So at the time you lived in Arkansas, is that where you were as a kid?
So no, so I think it was probably about around, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 years old when we moved from Arkansas to Baltimore, Maryland, to stay with my auntie.
Wow, that's far.
Yeah.
And culture shock.
Yes.
That's very different, Maryland, Baltimore.
It was cold.
That's a tough
It
city.
was so cold.
It's cold and it's a tough city.
Yeah, I don't really remember, I guess, like the toughness of Maryland, but I definitely do remember like the struggles and the abuse and the suffering did follow. I know my mom and dad. This is where I first found out that my mom and dad would often get physically violent with one another. And I
Like, did you live through that, or did you see it, or did you did see it?
Oh yeah, like and it only ramped up as well. But like my first time experiencing anything in terms of and also by the way, my and I'll get into like my first encounter in foster care and stuff like that. But at this time in Baltimore, Maryland, my two sisters were actually in foster care because something happened with my grandmother on my mom's side to the point where she like took them and then CPS took them,
What's CPS?
Child Protective
Okay,
Services,
got you.
and CPS took them from her, and they were in foster care at the time. And as a little kid, like I almost forgot that I had sisters. I really did. I almost forgot
Wow.
that I had sisters. And like I remember this one time where like there was some random soccer ad playing on the TV and stuff. And one of the girls on there reminded me of my sister so bad that I looked over to my auntie and I'm like, "Hey, that's Shamira. That's my older sister name. That's Shamira. That's her." And like I could just see the look of distraught on my auntie's face when I said that, and just like she's, I could just tell that, man, she's not wanting to tell me the truth, but like she had to. And you know, obviously she was like, "No, that's not your sister," things like that. And then like an encounter that like I think will forever be ingrained in my brain with living with my auntie is when my I don't know exactly like the full details, but I just know that my mom and dad got into it, and I believe my dad threatened to take me away from my mother. And so all I heard was like screaming, and then like I went out of my auntie's room, and like I just see my mom like it's just it was such a weird angle from when I walked out of my auntie's room, but she was in another room, and I turned the corner, and like they're trying to like restrain her from getting to me, and so she's like busting through the closets and stuff to try to get to me. And then the police end up getting called and stuff, and they were just like asking me questions, and it was also weird to me. That was the first time I had experienced my mom like being um yeah, I would say violent.
Wow. Are you comfortable? I want to we're going to go deeper. And I want to make sure you got your blanket.
Yeah, I
You
got
got
my
your,
blanket.
okay. Josiah, can you take this cup of tea and go make him some more? I don't mind that it's rolling on this. It's like this all part of the deal. Take this tea upstairs. Make sure there's some honey in it. Give him a new bag of throat coat. Okay. Because Roderick's feeling a little under the weather today.
Yeah.
It's all good. We're going to take care of you here. And I want to make sure you got what you need. So you're good?
Thank you. Yeah.
Good. All right. So while he's doing that, so clarify this for me, because like we're moving into new areas, and I specifically have not asked you about your personal life at all during this trip. Or
yes, guys, he has been such a stranger to me. Like we're at the dinner table, and I'm trying to talk with him, and he's like, "Shh, don't say anything. Don't say."
Well, because I don't want this interview to be leading. Like I want to have a genuine human interaction with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I want whoever watches this thing to see me reacting to your story and watching me like work through things that you might say that challenge me. And also, and I want that to be genuine. You know, that's really at the heart of it. I want this interaction to be genuine. Mm-hmm. And so I've been saving questions for weeks and months now, knowing that you're coming here. So clarify this question for me. Did you ever spend any time in foster care? Or
yes,
you did.
So
wait, so like, all right, I've got some experience with the foster care system in general. So like, can you give me like the story leading up to you being taken, and like just really like slow that down for us, because like that's kind
Yeah.
of crazy in and of itself.
hmm
All right, so let's hear about that. Let's hear about that.
Yeah. So we eventually moved from Baltimore, Maryland to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because lo and behold, that's where my sisters were actually in foster care at. And at this time, honestly, again, like I was saying earlier, I almost had forgotten that I had sisters. And so when I saw them for the first time again, it was kind of weird and stuff. Like we
Wow.
didn't really have that
How
big of,
old? How old were you?
um, I would say around maybe 7, 8, yeah, 8 years old. Um, and my father and mother eventually, you know, got my sisters back, and so we stayed in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Was there for a while, but unfortunately, the abuse continued there, and this is where, like, I would say things would amp up so much, because my mom and dad would be fighting often in front of me and my siblings, and like to the point where, like, it, like, bruises or cuts type stuff was happening. And I just remember, like, I don't know, like, just either sometimes hearing it and then like leaving my room and like just seeing them fighting in their own room, just it happening out of the blue. It sometimes my the thing of which is very interesting. I always say that it would it's been hard since I left Milwaukee to recognize my mom as my mom. And what I mean by that is she was there were a lot of moments where I would say she was in her right mind, and like like, I don't know, it was just this feeling that I had. I'm like, okay, like I feel it, like she's my mom, she's right and stuff. But then like I would notice almost immediately once like her having like once the bipolar disorder like kind of took over more, like her mood would change, like she would start having random conversations about something that happened years ago. Um yeah, I don't know. It was just be really, really hard. But one thing that I can say is that my mom, some of the times when her and my dad would get into physical altercations with one another, it would be because she was protecting us. And it's crazy
Wow.
because although my mom struggled with bipolar disorder and her and my dad got um physically violent often, my mom never laid a finger on any of us, any of her children, never. Like she never abused us, she never hurt us, she never threatened our life, like never. Um, and so it was it was very interesting. Like even though like her and my dad had those experiences, like I don't know, she always tried to protect us, um, which I would say like is probably just that motherly instinct, that always has stayed intact despite her mental illness. And so the abuse got worse. My dad kept getting the money, taking it, and then spending it on alcohol to the point where me and my older sister, we would often, when my dad was flat out drunk, we would go in his pockets and take like hundreds and hundreds of dollars and go get food and go get snacks, um and when we couldn't do that, me and my older sister, we would steal a lot from stores and stuff. We would go stealing from like Dollar Trees and gas stations and things like that, to make sure that we had snacks and we could eat and stuff like that. But the abuse continued, and we eventually got evicted out of our home. And my this is crazy, but uh yeah, yeah, what should I say? How should I say this?
Just say it.
Yeah.
We got you some more tea. It's coming. Right
Oh,
now.
perfect. We actually went on the run. we went on the run.
Like who? You and your sisters? And
All of us,
really?
because my dad didn't have the money to pay, and so we packed up everything and went to Florida.
Dang.
we,
You just drove?
yes,
That's insane.
yes. Packed up everything and went to
insane.
Florida. We literally went on the run. And like our neighbors would try to contact my parents and us on Facebook and be like, "Hey, where are you guys?" and stuff like, "You guys up and left, like you guys need to pay rent and like all of this." And like they just left. And so we went to Florida, stayed with this was St. Petersburg, Florida, stayed with um my dad's brother's friends, and that didn't last long because my dad couldn't abide by the rules of their home, and again, him being an alcoholic, just not being in his right mind, and so they ended up kicking us out, and we eventually got our own home, and this is where the foster care stuff comes in because
In Florida? In Florida?
yeah,
Okay.
so so from St. Petersburg, Florida, we went to Newport Richey, Florida, and what happened was the abuse got so worse that our neighbors started to catch wind about what was going on, and specifically the neighbor was a family by the name of Wendy and Michael Craps.
That's a crappy name.
Stop.
I'm sorry. Sorry, it's like low hanging fruit. You can't say stuff like that to me and not
Stop.
expect me to say something.
No, they're good people. They're good people.
Sorry.
So my dad actually got a side gig with taking care of Wendy's husband, um, and like as like a little house nurse, and we ended up getting kicked out of our home, and we stayed with them, and lo and behold, they found out about my dad's alcohol problem. They found out about the abuse, and there was one day where it was really bad with my dad drinking, and I just ran in the room, took his alcohol bottle, and ran out of the house. And the lady Wendy, she ran after me, and I remember she kind of like was very stern with me, but like it was for all good reasons. She was like, "No, like give me this bottle. Like you don't touch this. Don't touch this at all and stuff. Like you're not the one to fix your parents' problems." And that night, she kicked them both out.
Dang.
She kicked my mom and my dad out, but kept us.
Whoa.
And so my mom and dad went to stay at a trailer park. They literally stayed in a whole trailer, and we started going to school.
You weren't going to school regularly at this point?
Kind of off and on,
Off and on.
and like I was really bad
Dang.
in school too, and so it was
Dang.
actually awful. It was so awful. I was
Oh
really
my
bad.
goodness.
And so for months we were going to school, living under their roof, like, having Christmas with them, Thanksgiving with them. Like we would go weeks without seeing our parents, like literally. And I know I talk about my older sister a lot, but I had so it's my older sister, me, and then my now 18-year-old sister, but at the time, like I don't remember what age she was, honestly. But she was in the home too. And I just remember like us living the life that we wanted with our parents, but with them, like we would get like these little Beyblade toys and stuff,
Wow.
like have family
So
dinner
they
with
took
them.
care. They kind of
Yeah,
adopted you.
yeah, we got like Xbox and stuff. Like it was
Wow.
so fun.
Were they
And
actually fostering you or
so legally, no,
no? But
no,
this is kind of the scenario.
yeah,
So unofficial fostering
yeah,
from
unofficial
this family.
fostering, and
Are they still in your life today?
so unfortunately, both of them passed away.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
sad.
yeah.
How long ago was that?
It was after we left foster care.
Wow, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
Were they older? Were they elderly couple?
No, but they just
No.
had like a lot of medical
Dang.
problems. It's
Dang.
hey y'all, I'm not gonna lie.
No,
It
this is
was
crazy.
I
Wow.
that's where I forgot
Wow.
that one song though. But it's a rap song that we always used to sing together, and it has like the guy saying baking soda. I got baking soda. It's bad because he's alluding to cocaine, but
Okay.
but I don't know. It was just a real. It was just really funny.
I don't know where this is going. We're getting off track.
I know.
Right.
But so Wendy, I would call her my first foster mom. She was actually the first one who knew that I would experience same-sex attraction because in middle school, there was this guy that I really liked, and because I liked him, I tried to get into a fight with him and stuff. And like it was just back and forth, and it was a whole mess. Like I was a mess about this for years actually, and there was this one day where I woke up and I'm like, I'm gonna tell him that I like him. I'm gonna tell him that I like him, and I wrote on no, it was a day before. I wrote on the mirror after I got out of the shower. I'm gonna tell him that I like him. That's his name. Oh, hopefully he doesn't watch this.
You put this on. You want me to beep it? You want me to beep it?
Yeah.
We'll beep it.
Yeah.
We'll beep it.
I'm gonna tell him that I like him, and I forgot that I had written that on the mirror. And so when I got home from school, Wendy sat me down.
She saw that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she's like, "Hey,
Wow.
I saw this on the mirror. I'm not like mad or anything, but you can talk to me about this." And because I was so scared. I was like, no. It wasn't that. Like it's just I no, tell him that I like him as a friend, that I want to be his friend. And I like covered it up because I was so scared and stuff.
Wow.
And especially because like I had a good thing going with her, and I'm like, no, like I can't like ruin this. But she was the first one to tell me like, hey, it's okay. If this is what I think it is, it's okay. You can be yourself. You can be you and stuff. And so live with them for we never talked about it again. Live with them for a couple months. My mom and dad wanted us to spend a night at their trailer. And my dad, he they agreed to it. So we went there. They dropped us off. They left. My dad still struggling heavily with alcohol. It was really, really bad. And to the point where I was scared that me and my sisters were going to die that night. I thought we were going to die. And they don't. So they actually don't know that this part of the story.
Your parents don't know?
Yeah, they don't know this part of the story, but I was the one who I called Wendy and I told her, I'm so scared. I feel like our life is in danger. And she called Child Protective Services. To this day, they thought it was like they thought that like all of it started because of her, but no, it started because of me. So I was the one that initially wanted like all of like Child Protective Services, like all this like to get involved, and Child Protective Services came and questioned my dad and them, and they ended up taking us away. And little did I know that would be the last night that I would see my parents, um, because so Child Protective Services, they dropped us back off at Wendy and Michael's home, and we stayed with them for a little while longer. But Wendy and them couldn't win the court case to adopt us, but my dad and them couldn't win it either, and so we got placed into foster care. Um, and now my had another sister that came along, and she was around like what 3, 4, and this is where the story gets crazy because my mom was in foster care growing up, and the same foster parents that she had is what my 3 or 4-year-old sister got sent to, which is a whole thing. And I didn't know that until later on. So the same foster parents that foster my mom is the same foster parents that foster one of my little sisters, and the the other two, like my other two sisters, me and them, we got placed into a same group home together. About 60 kids, 5 houses, 12 kids in each. Hopefully that math checks out. uh, but and this is where I step into territory of finally accepting the same-sex attractions that I had, because in the group home there were people there that were gay, that were lesbian, and this is where my sister, she came out as lesbian in the foster home as well. Um, and I just remember, like, I was the very definition of delinquent. Like, I would skip school a lot, like, for some boiled peanuts from
Well,
Circle K.
let me insert something
Yeah,
else here,
yeah,
because having worked in group home system for over 10 years of my life and worked with a lot of kids with trauma, like, you were a victim, and
yeah,
you were also neglected severely. So from my perspective as an adult carer of young children, adolescents, your um, behavior
mhm,
was a symptom of your neglect.
yeah,
So it's not like you were a bad kid.
mhm,
You were a neglected kid
yeah,
who was acting out to let the world know something's not right happening here at home.
yeah,
I mean, in all different ways. I mean, you even said you took the bottle and ran, like you were doing things to protect yourself, protect your
yeah,
siblings, but you were shouting it all along that there's a problem here,
yeah,
and trying to get people to listen. So I just want to insert that there too, because I don't want, the whoever, throw this out into the internet, everybody's going to be trying to understand you.
yeah,
I think for Christians who are not dealing with same sex attraction feelings, or know anybody even who
mhm,
has been anywhere close to this lifestyle, which in a Christian bubble, it's easy to do that.
right,
Um, they're going to be analyzing everything that comes out of your mouth saying, well, Roderick was gay because of this
mm,
and this and
yeah,
this. I'm not trying to do all that right now.
yeah,
I'm just trying to say, um, let's keep things in perspective, or,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
you went through some serious life stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it was really, really hard. And so we would still be in contact, like while we were in foster care with Wendy and them, and just tell them how much we want to be with them, and they really tried to their last breath, like they tried to fight for us and to get us and stuff, but the courts just wouldn't let them. And there was months before we even had visitation hours with our parents. But yeah, in middle school, I skipped school a lot, was in school suspension a lot, and out of school suspension a lot. I fought a lot, but I I felt more comfortable and more safe to explore my sexuality in foster care, especially because like other people in the foster care group home that I was in did as well. And that's where so I dated a girl in there. Didn't work out. But this guy, uh, if he ever sees this, yeah. But
Don't say his name.
yeah,
Man.
yeah, I won't say his name. But this guy I really, really liked, and my sister was dating a girl at the time, and we like we were, it was like, I don't know, like 10 of us in like one room or whatever, and like she like kissed her girlfriend or whatever, and I just like remember like me telling my sister that I like him, and that I want to kiss him and stuff, and her being older sister, like she like explained like, uh, I think it was either her or somebody else, but like explain to him like how I was feeling about him, and like he just looks over and smiles at me and gives me a kiss on the lips, and asked me to be his boyfriend. Yeah, yeah. And like, I don't know, I just remember like, I don't, and okay, I'll just be honest about like how like I felt, and like it'll come into like, obviously, I'll get into all the theology and like all that, but like in that moment, like I felt like I was on top of the world and stuff. I'm like, oh my
Sure.
gosh, the guy likes me, like this is my first boyfriend,
Right.
like bro, what? This is crazy. And like, we climbed back out of we climbed out of her window, because we weren't allowed to actually be in like the same room with like the girls
Sure.
and guys, and he gave me like this bracelet and stuff like that, like it was a whole thing, like what kids do. um and yeah, and so like started dating him, started being sexually intimate with him, um but we ended up, like we started to kind of like be off and on, because I think like he was going through his own stuff, with his own family and things like that. But it was, I don't know, it was really hard because like one minute he would break up with me, then the next minute he would get back with me. Um, and I kind of like crashed out, but crashed out in a sense of not being like violent, but in a sense of like being more sexually intimate, not with other guys in the group home and stuff. And it was actually pretty bad. I don't know, like like once I like learned about like, oh, it's okay to be gay, like I just went all in, bro. Like there was no stopping me. I'm like, you know what? I'm embracing
Yeah.
myself fully.
Sure.
Um, and so like,
Group homes are no joke.
yeah,
There are so many things that go on in group homes, not just people experimenting with
right.
sexuality.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, I spent a little time, not in a group home, but in a mental facility as a teenager because of my own bad
Oh
behavior.
wow.
And you go to these places to get help or, even
Yeah.
just basic needs met.
Hmm.
In my case, I was in that mental hospital
Hmm.
um, to prevent me from going on to foster care. I
Wow.
pled like crazy thoughts
Yeah.
to divert myself into the crazy system instead of being removed from my parents. I was just
Yeah.
trying to play the system a little bit. But
Mm.
same population, you know, congregates in these different places.
Yeah.
And I remember that by being around those other kids, my deviance got more sophisticated.
Oh yeah.
Like I learned things. I learned how to hide things. I learned to buy those Jenko jeans that had those double pockets so we
Oh
could
wow.
hide paraphernalia in it and stuff like
Oh
that. Like
Tom.
sneaking in and out of the facilities. So
Mhm.
my point is that um, that exploration and also that information exchange by other broken young
Mhm. Oh
people,
yeah.
that exchange happens,
Yeah.
and it's tough. And so some scenarios are like what you're describing, like where um, like you're just trying to make connections with
Yeah.
anyone because you don't
Oh
have
yeah.
any.
Yeah.
But on another sense, you're exchanging survival techniques
Mm.
and bringing those back into the real world. And kids would probably never even think to do these things if they didn't get together in a room and trade secrets.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that abuse and that neglect, it just replicates into the real world.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the tough thing about being in foster care or any kind of
Yeah.
placement is but the brokenness is real, and
Yeah.
and that pain is real, and the desperate need for connections is real too. So,
Mhm.
like, bro, thank you for taking us there. Thank you for doing it here first.
Yeah.
Like, I'm nervous about where we're going, but like, let's
Oh,
keep
we're
going.
gonna go.
Let's keep going, bro. I mean, like,
Yeah.
what? I don't want you to do anything you don't want to do, but like,
Mm-hmm.
this
Yes.
is crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff to hear,
Oh,
especially
yeah. It
like
gets
hanging out with you.
crazier.
Oh,
I have
great.
to tell you
Oh,
that.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So in foster care, like, and by the way, like, I still actually um communicate with some of my foster moms
That's cool.
from that foster home and stuff. Like, they're still very present in me and my sister's lives.
Wow.
Which is very amazing. But yeah, like, the group home was amazing. Like, they fed us, they took care of us. Like, they really tried to make it feel like a home.
You got to school,
Oh yeah, got to school, like, all of that.
and you even got to do activities and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
too.
a
Yeah.
lot of
Which
activities.
is
Yeah, they
cool.
brought in like a whole bunch of famous people from the football team,
Wow.
like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to
Let's
like
go.
sign stuff for us, and they celebrated our birthdays every month. Like, it was amazing.
That's cool.
Um, but yeah, so just continued,
Down that lifestyle.
yeah, down the lifestyle, down the sex, down the skipping school, fighting, like, all of that. But my grandmother on my father's side, she found out that we were in foster care. Funny thing is, she used to call, and this is like going on 3 years now with us being in foster care. She used to call my mom and dad and ask them where we were. And most of the time, they would just be like, "Oh, they're at school," or, "Oh, they're sleeping right now. We don't want to bother them." And so they lied to my grandmother and told her, like, about everything, even though we weren't with them. And the only reason why my grandmother found out that we were in foster care is because of, so they didn't want, I think my sister, she was getting closer to the age of like aging out and stuff like that. But they wanted to keep us together. And so they were trying to see, okay, is there any relatives that we can contact? And
they reached out to grandma.
yeah, and they reached out to my grandmother.
Wow.
Um,
So did you go there? Did you end up going there?
yeah, so
Where's she live at?
Detroit, Michigan.
And that's how you end up in Detroit. Grandma gets you to Detroit.
Yeah.
Dang. So we cover Arkansas, Maryland. You weren't joking when you said you live everywhere.
Yeah.
Arkansas, Maryland, Wisconsin, Florida, and Michigan.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yeah, and so my grandmother took foster parent classes, and she ended up moving us to Detroit, Michigan. This is
And this is all of you guys?
2016.
All of
Yeah,
you guys.
all of us.
Wow.
All of us, including my sister, who was with I didn't even touch on that, but like my sister who's with the same foster parents that was the foster parents of my mom when she was in foster
Whoa.
care. Yeah,
Whoa.
which is crazy.
That is crazy. 'Cause
Yeah,
placements are like a dime a dozen. You can end up
yeah,
anywhere.
literally. And so my grandmother ended up adopting us. We moved to Detroit, Michigan around 2016, 2017.
Wow.
But this is where it kind of gets a little bit more crazier. Um, my grandmother, she doesn't struggle like with like being an alcoholic or like alcohol or anything like that or smoking, but like she definitely has struggled with anger a lot, and because of that, she ended up being just like my dad, being very abusive. And so, and this is his mom. And so she ended up, yeah, how do I say this? I would say, and I don't even know how to like rank like best and worst and stuff, but like it was it was pretty bad. Like to the point where like my sisters would have like scratches on them and they would be bleeding
Wow.
and stuff. And to top it all off, she would take us to church every Sunday. And so she has a church community, had it for years, and she would be one way in front of them, but then another way in front of us at home. You know, she would even tell us things like, "You guys are never gonna amount up to anything in life. You're gonna be just like your good for nothing parents. I wish I would have never adopted you. There's no one outside of me that loves you like how I can love you and provide for you like how I can provide for you."
Your gram says?
hmm Yeah.
Dang, bro.
Yeah. And I would say like this is kind of like the reverse thing in terms of like, I know I said earlier on the first episode that on the first part that I felt like I experienced more of the abuse. This time around, I think my sisters, especially my younger ones, experienced at least a lot more of the physical side of it. Even though me and my older sister did get some of the physical as well. Um, but yeah, so scratches to the point where my sisters are bleeding on their arms and on their lips. And it was so hard because like my great grandmother, she's passed away now, but she lived in a home as well and stuff, and she tried to be the voice of reason for my grandmother, and it didn't work. Like, some days, me and my sisters would try to, just to get on her good side so she wouldn't yell at us or be angry towards us or abuse us and things like that. Like, we would try to do as much good as we can and stuff. Like, oh, asking her how her day was. Be like, oh, like, hey, I'm going to take out the trash. And, hey, like, I'm going to do this. Hey, do you need anything and stuff? And it wasn't out of a heart posture of authenticity by which we were asking these things from or doing these things because, but it was more so out of fear and out of like being like, okay, like if we can strategically be on her good side, she won't yell at us. She
Right.
won't abuse us.
All right, so the quick question here. Is grandma dad's mom or mom's mom?
Dad's mom.
Dad's mom, and dad's the alcoholic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like we're seeing like third generation
Yep.
abuse. And guess what? Just to, not to give dad or grandma a pass, like no hall pass. Everybody's responsible for their own actions.
Yeah.
But some of the abuse you suffered at their hands was abuse they suffered as well. So
Right.
how many generations this goes back, I don't know, but we're already 3 generations in.
Oh, yeah.
And grandma's showing all the telltale signs of an adult version of that same kid that you were,
Yeah.
who was neglected but acting out everywhere. Like she
Yeah.
was acting out on you guys, trauma she'd suffered in her own life.
Yeah.
So again, not a hall pass for grandma, but recognizing that this goes so deep, more deep than we'll ever be able to explore in this setting. But was there another intervention for grandma? Or did you just grow up until the end there in that scenario
Yeah.
of
So
high school?
I
Are we in
ended
high
up.
school yet?
Yeah,
Or-
we're in high
in
school now.
Okay, great.
I ended up calling Child Protective Services, like
dang.
our caseworker.
Okay.
And they had people come out and stuff, and they put my grandmother in. They set her up with anger management
Oh,
classes.
good.
But that only helped for, I don't know, probably a couple weeks and stuff. Because I think at a certain point they did threaten to take us away, and so she kind of like got her act together for a little while, but then she went back into the same thing. In high school, so my 9th grade year, with everything that I was experiencing, I was at a point where, because it was already like a big change, like leaving the foster care that I wanted to be at and coming into a place I didn't want to be at. Like when they first told us in foster care that we would be with our grandmother, we declined. Like we all said that we did not want to be with her and stuff. And it's not because we didn't like her, but it's just because we were comfortable where we were in the foster care. We already had established relationships, friendships, foster parents,
Right.
and so okay, now fast forward, like the abuse got like really bad to the point where I was actually I was gonna leave. I was gonna leave my sisters, and what I mean by that is because at a certain point, me and my older sister talked about leaving, and we wanted to leave, but she was like, I I can't I can't leave. Jasmine and Carlin, those are my other two sisters' names. Sorry guys, still getting over this sickness, but she's like, I can't leave Jasmine and Carlin, so I'm gonna just stick it out. And I told her, I can't, I can't do it. And so I told my caseworker, get me on the next flight to go back to Florida, and talk to foster care people. They had still a spot open for me. I was gonna leave. I was gonna leave my sisters, gonna leave the home, gonna leave everything behind and just be on my own. Um, but there was in high school, I was a part of this program called ROTC. And it's an army program and stuff, teaches you discipline and leadership skills and things like that. And my ROTC instructor, I share with him. He's a Christian. And he just noticed a lot in my life and stuff. And it came to a point where like, it got bad where like it was affecting me in school as well. And like, he noticed, and so he sat me down and we talked through like most of the stuff that I was going through. And like he told me that if I was to stay, he would do as much as he could to help me and my sisters, and to provide for us, and to kind of be that guy to stand between the gap of me and my grandmother, and my sisters and my grandmother. And I don't know, it was just something about him that was just different. And I trusted him, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay. And so I ended up staying, and so yeah, like I did basically stay through all 4 years. And what he did, it was kind of pretty cool. He we got to travel a lot because I was in that program. And so with traveling and like staying late after school and just doing a whole bunch of competitions like in Michigan, outside of Michigan, like I, at least like for me, until my older sister got into the program as well, like he got us away from the home often. Um, but my ninth grade year, towards the end of it, I started wanting to address my sexuality again, because my sister, at this point, she's out as a lesbian, like coming into grandmother's home out as a lesbian. They got into a whole bunch of arguments, like my grandmother telling her like the one liners, God didn't create Adam and Steve, he created Adam and Eve,
Right.
things like that. And so they would get into arguments about my sister's lifestyle, which is crazy because like, I mean, it just shows the hypocrisy. Like, okay, you're coming at her for this, but like, look at what you're doing. Though.
Right.
Like, it's literally no
Yeah.
and forth.
Yep.
Like, nah. And so like, I started talking with this guy on the DL. And he kind of, I don't want to say gave me an ultimatum, but because he was already out in our school, I think he was like, I was freshman, he was junior. He was already out at this point. Well, was he yeah, I think I was yeah, I was definitely a freshman. I think he was either a sophomore or junior, either or. And he was like, I can't go back in the closet and stuff, so if you're not willing to come out or whatever, then like we're breaking up. And I ended up I think like a week or two after that posting on my social media that I was bisexual. And so the reason why
Whoa.
I said I was bisexual is because I'm like, well, okay, in my mind, that will soften the blowback from all of that, like for my family and my guy friends, my classmates in school, because they're like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I come out as bisexual, at least they'll believe that, okay, he likes girls too. But yeah, like I wasn't truly bisexual. I was like fully gay. I lost a lot of family members respect. I remember like after coming out like 2 weeks after that, one of my cousins, like, he took me on a walk. He's my age. Took me on a walk, and he's like, "Hey, I don't care that you're gay, but don't do that gay stuff around me, bro." I'm like, okay, like, hello, bro. And yeah, it was just so weird. And then I lost a lot of guy friends in high school, but at least for me, I'm like, I'm living on my own terms. I'm living my own truth. And so I'm just going to do that at the end of the day. So started dating this guy. But then what happened was that some of the people from my church, like my grandmother had me sit down with my pastor and like some people from my church, and they told me that I was going to hell because I was gay. And that if I wanted to continue being with a guy, then I was going to go to hell and be separate from God. And it was really hard for me. But that kind of instilled a fear into me to the point where I broke up with my boyfriend because of that. But then I got back with him, and it would kind of be off and on a little bit because those fears would like subside, but then they would rise up again, and it was actually pretty bad, like with me wrestling through that. But like, I'm like, oh well, okay, if there truly is a God out there, like I don't I don't want to go to I don't want to burn and stuff.
Right.
And so continued being off and on with him, but then he ended up graduating. So he was my sophomore year, so he was a junior at the time when we started dating. And like we went our separate ways, and I just started sleeping around with different people, different men in my school.
How old are you now?
Probably around like 16. Yeah, 16ish.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely 16ish. And I just remember like there was one night where the abuse got from my grandmother and like the yelling and stuff. Like I mean still which is crazy. Still to this day, I like have a lot of PTSD from like every time my grandmother would like walk up and down the stairs, like my heart would just beat so fast and I would get so scared. Because in my mind I'm like, okay, like is this another abuse moment? Is this another moment of verbally attacking me and stuff? Like what's gonna happen? Like it's yeah, it was really really rough. But I tried to okay, how do I say this? I thought about often like taking my own life.
Wow. Wow.
And I contacted my caseworker, and because I was having all these thoughts, I told her, "Hey, I think I might be bipolar like my mother." And like she was talking with me through it and stuff. And I think I ended up calling like a crisis hotline or something like that. But then like I eventually like hung up and just got off of it because I got too scared. But I I don't want to say like I went like far enough to like actually make any real damage, but like I would often like go get knives and like see how like far I could cut. And then like I don't know, I just like some moments I felt like I had the strength to take my life, but then like it would pass away very quickly, and then like I would like drop the knife and be like, what am I doing, and stuff like that. And that was like a off and on thing for me. Like I don't know, I just like the man, me sleeping around wasn't working. Like me being in ROTC and traveling, doing all that stuff wasn't working anymore. I actually did pretty good academically because I'm like, well, this is my only out to get into a good college, and get away from the abuse. But even striving after academic success, it didn't work. And dealing with abuse at home, like
It's taking its toll.
yeah, like all of that is now like building up and stuff. Like the foster care, abuse from my parents, like being taken from my home, abuse now, just all these different things. And I was very like I got really really depressed.
This is the end of part 1 with Rodereck Blassingame. I didn't actually know how deep this guy was going to go into it, and there's still so much redemption and so much good God talk to come. I don't know when we're going to get to it, but I wanted this guy to keep going with his story. I hope you're enjoying it too. We'll have a second part and just go deeper down the rabbit hole with Rodereck Blassingame. Well, that's a wrap for season 1. We'll see you next season on the Faith to Faith Gospelcast. Season 2 kicks off on April 30th with more guests, prizes, and so much more. See you next season.